The fortune that changed everything. Julian had always believed that life had a strange sense of humor, not because he was a bitter or pessimistic man. On the contrary, he was someone who tried to smile even when life dressed itself in the darkness of night. But from a very young age, he learned that luck does not fall from the sky. You have to provoke it, chase it, or accept it when it arrives disguised as an opportunity. Still, he never imagined that one day luck would fall upon him like a lightning bolt splitting a tree in half, suddenly, without explanation, leaving everything unrecognizable. The story began on a Thursday, an ordinary Thursday, one of those days no one would remember if fate had not decided to mark it forever. Julian was leaving work with a kind of exhaustion that was not physical, but mental, a constant where that accumulated without him noticing. He was 34 years old and had been working for 8 years at the same company, a gray place where the days repeated themselves like poorly printed photocopies. That Thursday, as he walked toward his apartment in a modest neighborhood, he passed by the corner store where he usually bought water or coffee. Outside, a lottery ticket vendor called out to him, "Hey man, try your luck today. Big prizes are coming out." Julian smiled. He had never believed in those things. But that day, he felt something strange. Maybe boredom. Maybe intuition. Maybe a blind impulse. Or maybe it was simply one of those inexplicable moments that later define an entire life. He bought the ticket without even looking at it. The next day, he won. Not a small amount. Not a modest prize. He won the jackpot. A sum so absurd it felt like something taken straight out of a movie. Millions. An amount capable of changing the lives of several generations. He received the news sitting at the dining table, with a freshly served plate of rice and eggs in front of him. He dropped the fork. His breathing became shallow. He didn't understand. He read it again and again, until he finally stood up, walked in circles, and felt the world grow enormous, too big to comprehend. That day, Julian's life changed, but not in the way he imagined. The first days were euphoric. He shouted. He laughed. He cried. His mother hugged him tightly when he told her. His brother Andres looked at him with happiness and tears in his eyes. Friends appeared with messages, emojis, calls that hadn't come in years. Life felt perfect. Julian began buying things he had never had before. New clothes. A car. Short trips. Nothing extravagant, at first. He tried to control himself, but the money began to awaken a new feeling inside him. Power. Power to say yes. Power to say no. Power to never go back to work on Monday. He quit. The days became long and empty, so he started going out more. Parties. Inviting friends. Paying for everything. Buying bottles. Encouraging excess. Giving away whatever people asked for. "Life is short, brother," he always said, without realizing that this phrase was slowly leading him to ruin. He bought a luxury apartment. Then another. He invested in meaningless ventures. Trusted the wrong people. Lent money that never came back. And without noticing, his life began to overflow. More money. More people around him. More noise. Less silence. Less clarity. Less prudence. Every time someone approached him, deep down he felt a doubt. Are they here for me, or for what I have? But he drowned that thought in laughter, trips, and spending. The money seemed infinite. Until it wasn't. The fall was not sudden. It was slow. Silent. Like a drop of water falling every day on the same spot. For 3 years, he spent without control. He invested where he shouldn't have. Helped those who didn't want to be helped. And above all, he neglected the most important thing, his mind. One day, he looked at his bank account and felt a cold knot in his stomach. The balance was minimal. He couldn't believe it. He checked his transactions. Purchases. transfers, withdrawals, luxuries, whims. Then came the hardest blow. A failed business in which he had invested almost everything he had left. He collapsed. That same day, the lottery vendor who had sold him the winning ticket passed by and said, "Hey man, how's that money you won going?" Julian forced a smile and felt a void so deep it almost drowned him. There was nothing left. Not the money. Not the friends. Not the parties. Only him. And his silence. One Sunday night, sitting on the floor of the apartment he could no longer afford, Julian felt his life had completely fallen apart. He cried like he hadn't cried since he was a child. He didn't know what to do. How to start over. How to move forward. Weeks passed like that, confused, ashamed, feeling he had disappointed everyone, including himself. One day, wandering through the city center with no direction, he entered a small bookstore just to escape the rain. The place was almost empty. Only an old man organizing books on a table. Julian walked without looking, running his fingers along the spines, until one book fell to the floor. He picked it up. A thin book. Soft cover. Old. Meditations. Marcus Aurelius. He had never heard of him. The old man approached and said, "That book finds you when you need it." Julian didn't understand. But he bought it. That night, he began to read. And that was the true beginning of his new life. The words of Marcus Aurelius struck him like an awakening. Choose not to feel harmed, and you won't be. Life is what your thoughts make of it. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Julian felt as if he were listening to someone who had lived thousands of years ago, yet was speaking directly to him. He continued reading Epictetus, Seneca, the Stoics, ancient and modern. And little by little, he understood. He hadn't lost because of bad luck. He had lost because of his mind. Because he didn't know how to govern himself. Because he lacked discipline. Because he didn't understand what was truly valuable. He discovered a phrase by Epictetus that marked him forever. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And then he understood. He hadn't lost his life. He had only lost money. And he had gained wisdom. With this new clarity, he truly began again from zero. He looked for work. At first, it was difficult. Everyone knew he was the man who had won the lottery and lost everything. But he didn't hide. He didn't make excuses. He didn't blame anyone. He didn't complain. He had learned the first great Stoic lesson: accept reality as it is, without resistance. He found a job in a small carpentry workshop. Nothing glamorous. Nothing like his former life. But every day, he treated it as practice. Lifting wood. Sanding. Assembling structures. Everything became training for the mind. He learned to wake up at 5 in the morning. He learned to read every day. He learned to save. He learned to focus on what depended on him. And in the silence of the workshop, he found a peace he had never known, even with millions in the bank. 1 year later, the owner of the workshop became seriously ill and decided to close it. But before doing so, he called Julian and said, "I've never seen anyone change the way you did. This workshop is small, but if you want it, I'll sell it to you cheap. I know you'll take it forward." Julian didn't have much money, but he had enough thanks to the habits he had built. He bought the workshop, restored it, filled it with used tools and Stoic books hanging on the walls as reminders. While he worked, he thought every day about a phrase by Seneca: "Nothing happens to anyone that they are not prepared to endure." And he realized he was ready for this new life. His carpentry business began to grow slowly. He made furniture with a detail no one else had. Dedication. His work had soul. It had purpose. People didn't just buy furniture, They bought the story behind it. They bought Julian's honesty. They bought his rebirth. In 2 years, he had 3 employees. In 4, he opened a second workshop. In 5, he became one of the most recognized craftsmen in his city. No luxury, no excess, with discipline, virtue, and clarity, like a true Stoic. One day, while giving a lecture at a university about resilience and applied philosophy, someone in the audience asked him, "What saved you when you lost everything?" Julian smiled, took a deep breath, and said, "Money didn't save me when I had it. Losing it saved me, because losing it forced me to find myself. I thought I had hit rock bottom, but that bottom was solid ground to build a new life. I learned that fortune does not define who I am. I learned not to depend on anything external. I learned that true wealth lies in governing my mind, not in what I own. That's what saved me." People applauded. But Julian wasn't speaking to be applauded. He spoke because he knew that maybe someone in that room was about to lose everything, or about to find themselves. That night, when he arrived at his small, bright apartment, he sat by the window and looked at the sky. He needed nothing more. He missed nothing. And as he held in his hands the book he had found years earlier, Meditations, he smiled with gratitude. He had finally understood what Marcus Aurelius meant. The true victory is victory over oneself. Julian had not recovered millions, but he had gained the greatest wealth of all: inner freedom, purpose, virtue, peace. And for the first time, he felt that fortune had chosen him again. But this time, it wasn't luck. It was life. And he was ready. Are you interested in Stoicism, personal growth, and real-life stories? Then subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media to stay connected with our community. Join the Stoic Stories family.